sure and tweet it out.
I would like when we're for sure going.
I'll hold it. I'll hold it till when we start.
Yeah.
All right. So, alt print screen or smile. You want to do you can do face?
I would.
Oh, an ad. No. Adception on Twitch. All right. Let me pause this. We don't need to see that now. Who cares? Right. Minimize that. All right. Open up Paint. I have sophisticated software for images. It's called Microsoft Paint.
Sweet. You photo editing genius. So as you can tell, I'm on my new super PC.
Yeah,
I've
I can't
already
tell
had
because
issues.
you look like you always do. There's no enhanced webcam graphics.
No, because I'm using the exact same webcam from the other PC.
All that money and you still look like your old webcam.
Out of curiosity, is this what's better, this webcam or the webcam on that laptop?
I think this webcam is.
Okay.
Yeah.
It would make sense.
They're
for it to
both.
be
I think
better.
they both do the same resolution. They both look good, so I'm not really.
This one says 720p on 7. I think this one says a 720p.
Our show. Coming out. Twitch.tv. TV/EXMpodcast.com. Or not .com, just whatever. Here's the image. Okay. So that tweet is all ready to go. We'll send it when we've started. So how about the song? The warm-up song? We want to get warmed up? We're live and direct. Oh, we got 1 sec time.
All right, proceed.
Proceed with the music? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Good thing we did that because there were some technical difficulties with one of my wire that took a dump. But it's
Yeah,
good
don't
now.
turn around.
Why not turn around?
Because when you turned around,
That's when I fixed it. I turned around to unplug the wire and then to plug it back in and to I don't know, there's something weird about the way it was plugged in, I guess. It wasn't connected all the way. All right. Well, good thing we did that little thing. Now we can get started recording. Yeah, let's just do it. All right.
Alrighty.
Hopefully there's no bad things that happen. Let's go.
Hello and welcome to the Exclamation Mark podcast. We are talking about the only podcast that does not employ behavioral scientists. I am one of your hosts, the Robin Hood of this podcast, if you will. I'm talking about Croft and Steers. Yes, that's me. All the Croftaholics nationwide going insane right now. And with me, as always, the Little John, the Friar Tuck to my Robin Hood. I'm talking Bo Schwartz. Welcome, Bo.
Thank you for the introduction, Crofton. I don't get how I'm the Little John, but whatever. I'll take
You
it.
can be Friar Tuck, or you can be Will Scarlet. You can be any of the merry
Who's
men.
who
You
does
take your pick.
who does Morgan Freeman play?
He plays some guy that doesn't exist. They invented for the Kevin Costner movie. Don't even.
I want to be
I
that.
forget his name. I'm
Oh,
pretty sure it's racist though.
can I Maybe not. Maybe that's important that they included, someone who wasn't white in the Robin Hood tale.
Maybe.
All right. Thank you for the introduction, Crofton. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, which is nice because the past couple episodes, sometimes I'd be feeling sick or whatever. So I soldiered on, as our loyal listeners know. But this week, I feel like I'm ready to go.
So, from neither one of us, there's going to be any no sniffling or anything. We're all
Well,
going to
not
be
until you
primed.
did that.
Well, that was for demonstration purposes only. It's not a real sick one. You know the sound of like bubbling snot in someone's sinuses when you hear it, and you know that was definitely put on. All right.
do know that.
Look, a whole bunch of games got released. We talked a lot about them last week. Big whoop, whatever. I don't know that we want to focus too much. Did you buy any of these games? I know I didn't. Like none of them I'm playing.
Well, couple of things on there. So first off, I finally got my new computer. So I am on my new computer right now. I got it last night, and I barely used it. I don't know if there's going to be problems, probably, knowing my history with electronics. It hasn't caught fire yet. That's a good thing. When you buy a new video card, it comes with like doodads and stuff. Like often there comes with games and this and that. I think I have a free copy of Assassin's Creed Syndicate that came with it. I think I have a Heroes of the Storm something or other. So those are the two doodads I got with my card.
Doodads?
Yeah, doodads.
Doodads.
One of them is a game, and the other is Heroes of the Storm unlocks. I think I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
But yeah, so I got those, but neither of them. Heroes I'm gonna try for sure. Assassins, I don't know. There's other games I've been waiting to play, including Metal Gear Solid 5 and Fallout 4. I haven't bought either one yet, but I do want something that's gonna flex the gaming muscles of my new PC. So I might be Fallout 4. I'm thinking about it.
Well, I hear a lot of people really enjoy it. I saw a video today of 1,000 Death Claws versus 100, I don't know, Knights or something. Some kind of, I can't remember what they're called. So people are already doing the same thing they did with Skyrim, where they're just putting AIs up against each other in crazy ways and stuff. Fallout Wars.
Also this week is Star Wars. I think Battlefront comes out. Now, I know I made a big bitchingness about Star Wars Battlefront when I was in the PS4 beta. But part of me is like tempted to get that game just because it would be so easy to fit in between other games,
So if you stopped playing it, you wouldn't feel that horrible about it,
So, but I'm the reviews are in process right now. We don't know what they are. I have a feeling that from some podcasts I've listened to, some other things, that they might not be fantastic, which is in line with what I expected as well. So I feel like, and I also feel like because it's a game put out by EA and Origin, and it's multiplayer only, that it might go the way of Titanfall, which saw its price drop drastically very quickly. You could get it for pretty cheap because they needed people to play it, right? Now I don't think that the same thing's going to necessarily happen with Star Wars, but I feel like if I wait a little bit, I can probably get a better deal on it, and I don't feel the need to run out and buy it day one.
Yeah, I'm getting that impression of it. In fact, what I'm hearing is that from the EA camp and the Star Wars licenses, some new life has been breathed into Knights of the Old Republic, and there's some really good new content there. I don't think mass appeal, but given that there is a resurgence of new Star Wars content, there isn't having an MMO. Definitely means that they're gonna.
Oh, the Old Republic,
they're
right?
Gonna get some money, for development to keep that game going while all the movie hypes. Like, it makes sense. Everyone's excited for Star Wars, I'm sure we can pick up some video game loving customers to join a Star Wars MMO. So I'm hearing some good new stuff is coming to that game, but I don't
Yeah,
think.
it's supposedly like a single player campaign, which is kind of interesting. Like that they're trying to almost build Knights of the Old Republic 3 inside of the Old Republic or something like that. Like I hear interesting stuff about it. So
It's
I
already
mean,
very story focused. Even the original MMO, it's not like, oh, here's quest text. It's you do dialogue same as you do Mass Effect and things like that. So
it's true.
so
I I sort of wouldn't mind. Yeah, it's true. I almost wouldn't mind getting back into this, and maybe they're counting on people who would. I'm just amazed that so much money is being dumped into an MMO that's been out that long because it takes a lot of money to make these stories, animations, voice acting, all this. Where normally like I've been on MMOs years after they've been released, and generally, especially the non-popular ones, like not WoW, but like other ones, they
mhm.
tend to the content they end up releasing is like different colors of assets they already have. It's
Sure,
not
yeah.
normally very impressive. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Well, speaking of not normally very impressive, why don't we start talking about the news in the segment we call readme.txt.
readme.txt.
Yay.
Very good intro, Little John.
Thank
I
you. Are you Robin Hood?
Of course, Robin of Locksley.
Okay.
So
Robin Hood didn't play video games all day.
first item in our news is Fallout 4 releases sells 12 million copies. Look, that's not a big number. That's not a small number, and I think that for a while there it was just they said they shipped a lot of copies and it was unclear how many they sold. I'm pretty sure they've sold millions of digital copies. Like this is one of those first games that's breaking big digitally. But one thing is for sure, it's selling a lot of copies, and that's pretty cool. Like for a game that is kind of like when you think about it, Fallout 1 and Fallout 2, these were hardcore PC games, when
Sure.
they came
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
They were not mainstream games. This was like a 1950s aesthetic of what the future is and post-apocalyptic. Like it's crazy to me that we're at a point now where Fallout 4 is selling more than Skyrim.
Yeah, I think Fallout has its. I think because it has guns in it, I think it has a wider appeal to people. Because I know, like my brother, for example, loves Fallout 3, and I think I gifted him Skyrim because I'm like, man, if you like Fallout 3, you should check out what other things Bethesda does. This one's got dragons in it, and he didn't play it. He just wasn't in. Like he's like, I tried it, not interested in it, but he's gonna play Fallout 4. And I think it has to do. Some people just like the sci-fi setting and they like the guns, and I think it's just more broadly appealing to gamers' tastes than fantasy, which seems odd, but
Yeah, it does. I guess it does seem a bit odd. I find that what's weird about Fallout, and you're right about the guns and the gory kills and all that sort of stuff, but it's odd in the sense that it's not like Space Marines. It's not anything that you would call cool. It's kind of like it's retro. It's sort of Nuka Cola
it's
like Coke.
hipstery, right?
It's
Like
hipstery.
like
Yeah,
let's
it is.
let's make a post-apocalyptic future, but let's make it a snapshot in time of the 50s for because reasons. Like why? I don't know. We just want to because it's
Well,
cool,
it is
you
it
know.
is neat. It's just amazing to me that like it's selling in comparable numbers to Black Ops 3, like so which Call of Duty Black Ops any Call of Duty sells a ton. The Black Ops sub franchise sells even more, and Fallout is in that league. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Considering the type of game it is. I'm curious of those 12 million or whatever, how many of them will actually finish the game. That's one thing I always thought about The Witcher too. So it was like, how many of these people are actually finishing the game?
Dude, the
Probably.
campaign for Skyrim is like 10 hours. Like, it's actually nothing. If you
Yeah,
actually
but
ignore the fact that there's other things to do and stick to the quest, it doesn't take long to finish that game.
I still never finished Skyrim
I
because
know,
I got.
I know. When you realize like how short it is, you're gonna laugh. Like I didn't. I purposefully paused the main storyline, not knowing how long it was, but just there's tons of side quests. I finally said I better finish this game experience, and then I was like stunned at. I mean, it wasn't nothing, but it didn't take that long.
Yeah, I mean, like for me, it feels like they had about 6 10-hour quest trees, like with all the like guilds, like Fighter Guild, Thieves Guild, and all that sort of stuff. I know that when I see the end credits in a game,
Yeah.
I'm much less likely, even if I know there's a ton of content to go, I'm much more likely to set it aside in favor of something else. So I made a point of kind of not progressing the main story because I just did not want to get to the point where I saw the end credits because I knew, knowing myself, I knew there was a good chance I would drop and never come back. So I said I got to finish all the like the mage quest, the thief quest, all that sort of stuff. So
No, I hear you, but Fallout 4 going to be another long experience. So if I were you, I'd wait till I was done with Witcher 3 before starting that one, because
it's on my list.
yeah. All right. So not much other information to actually share with people. Just that it sold a lot of copies, which is kind of like Dur. Next up, Epic Games slowly announces a new game, Paragon, over 5 agonizing weeks. And I came across this by accident because I was looking up Unreal Engine stuff. And I was watching one of their streams and they talked about this Paragon. I'm like, oh, Epic is actually making a game? Like, what? They haven't really made anything since Gears, right?
They made Infinity Blade and stuff.
Well, that's Chair though. I mean, it's them,
I
but
Yeah, I
like
guess.
they haven't had a big flagship title, I guess, in quite a while. And so
Hey, Gears was their bread and butter for a long time, and then they sold the entire property to Microsoft, I think.
yeah, I guess because they've been working on their engine. I mean, rather than make the game, they're the game enablers, just like, a couple other companies that are heard of, like Unity. But they're doing a game called Paragon, and they've released like these 2 characters. It looks like it's gonna be an arena shooter, like a deathmatch thing, maybe a MOBA. Like they've got this guy Twin Blade or Twin Shot and Steel, and it's literally just their character models. We have no idea about anything of the game. That's literally what's announced. But what's weird about this thing is that there's no trailer, there's no gameplay footage. There wasn't even much in the way of news on news sites. They just put up a site and started showing these things, and I guess they're trying to make it go viral or something, because here I am telling you about it. Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to what the people who make the Unreal Engine make as a game, because that's got to stand. It's also like not a tech demo, but in a way, it's like we make this game making engine, so the expectation on that game is that it's amazing, right? Because like, here's all the awesome stuff you can do with our. It's like an advertisement for their development engine. So, I wonder. I'm excited to see what the game's going to be like, because this also could throw all these like Lawbreakers, Overwatch, all these other Titanfall, Destiny. Like in terms of multiplayer combat, Epic might actually take that crown.
Well, the
Best
Unreal
shooter.
games and the Unreal tournaments games are still well regarded. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd be keen to see what they're up to. I definitely like the Gears franchise, and I feel that they put a lot. They're craftsmen almost because they're trying to show off their engine at the same time. As you mentioned, they want to sell it as well. So it's a bit like when Nintendo releases a console and it's always got some sort of gimmicky thing. The Nintendo themselves will release a game that kind of best captures the gimmick. Like it'll be the best motion controls or the best tablet controls, whatever. They're the dual screens on the DS. Well, Epic's a bit like that as well. Like when they release a new Unreal, they generally put out a product that kind of showcases it,
Yeah.
a new Unreal Engine rather. So yeah, hopefully it's cool.
Yeah. All right. Next up in bizarre announcement land, J.J. Abrams, the director of the new Star Wars movie, the Star Trek film, Super 8, the man behind Alias, Lost, and Fringe, all kinds of things that people tend to really like. They really generally audiences respect J.J. Abrams. He's working together with the chair, the developer we just talked about, who came up with one of Crofton's favorites, Shadow Complex and Infinity Blade. They're making a mystery game. By mystery game, I don't mean it's a game about mystery, but is that they haven't showed anything about it or really said much about it, except Chris Hardwick interviewed them about it, called Spy Jinx. So what do you think about J.J. Abrams throwing his weight behind a video game?
So they revealed absolutely nothing except the title. They must have revealed something more than that.
The one piece of information that I'm aware of is that it's something new and different, and that it's going to be available on mobile platforms as well as PC and consoles. Like, they weren't very specific. They just wanted everyone to have a chance to play it in a lot of accessible places.
Okay, I will say the thing that makes me more excited there, and no offense to J.J. Abrams, king of the lens flare, is Chair, and that's because like you mentioned, I really liked Shadow Complex. I like Infinity Blade. I think they are well crafted, fun to play games. Um, J.J. Abrams is follows in a long line of film directors or film auteurs that migrate generally temporarily into the video game space as if to tick a box on their CV. I think of Steven Spielberg, who came over in the 90s during the adventure game boom and did the adventure game with LucasArts, The Dig, which was essentially and that ended up doing quite well, like in both in terms of being a good game and financially or whatever, but it cost a shit ton to make. Recently, Guillermo del Toro has learned the hard way through two failed projects, the most recent being the Silent Hills game with Konami and Kojima, that video games sometimes come with their own set of problems.
What was the other one?
Pardon me?
You said there was two? What was the other one?
Yeah, there was another game. It was his second failed attempt at making a game. I think the other one was something Ill Bleed. I'd have to look it up. But
I was going to say, is it with Konami as well? Because maybe the lesson here is just don't work with Konami.
I don't think it was with Konami, but I don't think it was with a major developer either.
Okay.
Like, I mean, he really should have been hanging his hat on somebody who's a little more stable. Although I guess you could have argued that Konami and the Silent Hills franchise would have been stable. I think his timing was just poor, and he doesn't appear to be soured. He says he's going to be back and be involved in it. So J.J. Abrams, and it was the same with like Lost and all these things. He tends to come in, sprinkle his magic lens flare J.J. dust on things, and then move on to something else. And this feels like it's that again, and maybe it'll be great. But JJ's record, I think, is hit and miss. Some stuff is great, some stuff not so much. I'm hoping this is good.
So are we laying odds that he's not directing episode 8 and 9, or he does 8 but not 9? Like, he's like, Star Wars, I did that, I'll move on.
I'm pretty sure they already have a director for 8, and it's not him.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I don't think they have 9, but I think 8 is not him. I forget who it is. But yeah, exactly. And it was surprising he did 2 Star Trek movies, but they have like a director for the third one or whatever. So I mean, in Lost, I think he did the pilot episode and was like a creative force on it, but then was like, I'm gone now.
TV shows are they have more crew, right? You never, like, when I'm looking at who directed each episode, it's always a cycle of names. It's never the same people generally.
Right, but he gets a lot of credit for that show often.
Well, he's the created by. TV shows have the created by, right? Like, it's who's the guy who did Breaking Bad? I can't think of his name. The X-Files guy. It's
Chris Carter?
No. I can't believe it's escaping me. We're going to get back to it. But, there's always, like, a Community was created by Dan Harmon. So now everyone's into, like, what else has Dan Harmon created? But, like, realistically, it's other people that have, also helped make the show. Like, there's a ton of people that helped on it, including the directing of things.
I'll tell you.
Vince Gilligan. Vince Gilligan's the name of the guy. Yeah.
Spy Jinx, just the title, it sounds like a playful game, but it sounds like it involves spying in some way. I think there's a lot of attractive concept to be there. So I'd be interested to see if it's going to be a narrative heavy game or not. But yeah, it interests me more that J.J. Abrams is involved, but I don't expect, if he had partnered with like a developer that I didn't respect or didn't have a lot of interest in, I would have a lot less interest in this property. But the fact that it's Chair makes me a little more. I feel like this may be a small game though, like a downloadable game.
Yeah, especially given Chair's scope, which even Shadow Complex was like an arcade game and not a full AAA release or anything like that. Okay, well, speaking of celebrity people, the guy Chris Roberts that is behind the Star Citizen game in the headlines again. One of his gamers got an interview on PC Gamer because he's the guy who spent $30,000 on ships and paraphernalia in Star Citizen. And if you're not in the know, that game isn't really. I'm sure there's going to be a retail $60 release, but as it stands right now, you can enter the game by purchasing various ships. And I don't think there's a $30,000 option. I think there was a $15,000 one, though, from the interview, but it was like a buy one kind of deal. But the thing you need to take away from this is that this is a guy he's a fan of Chris Roberts. He's really enthused about Star Citizen, and he spent $30,000 of his own dollars, not to support the game through Kickstarter, on purchases to the game. And I read the interview. It's a pretty interesting read. The guy claims that he didn't spend any of his main job income. He's a computer programmer that works from home. He got side jobs in order to be able to pay for his Star Citizen fandom or whatever. He said credit cards are for idiots. I didn't put anything on credit cards. So, this guy worked a bunch of side jobs, took $30,000 out of some economy somewhere and gave it to the Chris Roberts money pile in presumably Austin, Texas. I don't know where, but
So, when you play a game with microtransactions and you can buy, it depends if you're buying boosts or whatever, in which there's unlimited boost. But if it's like Heroes of the Storm or Dota or League of Legends, where you buy characters, at one point you can have bought all the characters.
Sure. Yeah.
So what I don't understand here is, like, what can you possibly have spent $30,000 on in Star Citizen?
Okay, well, I'm going to Robert Space Industries.
You know what? Don't research it on the fly. I'll if I'm that interested, I'll look it up later.
Okay. All right, but I just want to say, like, there's a ship here, like the F-7C Hornet. It's $125 US. Like, that's one purchasable thing. Like, it's not like Here's the Storm where it's like $10. It's like, here's a ship. It's $125. Like, that's kind of. Here's a question for you. You've stated to be interested in Star Citizen, as am I.
Yeah, I'm losing enthusiasm by the day, though.
How would you feel buying a game where, if you're going to play the online portion, you can run into people that have spent hundreds of dollars on sweet ships, and you've just got your retail bevy of ships? Like, do you think that's kind of like not the game experience you want, really? Like, that someone could spend thousands of dollars to look cooler than you in the video game?
Now, well, here's one of the things that with the ships that I remember when the game was first being shown, like, graphically, they showed you. Remember, I've told you I'm a big fan of in games seeing the animation where you get into a ship or you get into
the immersion factor.
Nothing seems to be more immersive than what Star Citizen is doing. Each one of these ships, the entire interior is designed, like, everything is. So, I mean, these are not works of art, but they are. There's a fair amount of effort that goes into them, and I have no idea how many different ships there are. $30,000 worth sounds like a lot. I definitely think that they are overpriced, and I don't like the idea of things costing that much inside of a video game. I also don't like the idea of somebody spending a lot of money on something that could become devalued once the game launches. Because right now they're priced at a certain price point based on what they expect they will be worth once the game starts being played. But once everybody's in and people are playing, and Star Citizen's been out for a few years, could be that a lot of these ships that this guy spent like $150 on, they start selling at like $10, maybe even less. They're like, well, we're not selling a lot of these because there's not a lot of crazy people that want to spend $150 a ship, so we better lower the price. Meanwhile, a bunch of people bought them for a lot of money. If I was those people, I would feel kind of like a sucker, but also pissed,
I guess it depends how much of how much they spent on this game, because it made, what is it, like 96 million, right? Like, let's say it cost you 70 million. Haven't you won? Didn't you win the video game development thing? Like, I don't know. I guess it's weird the way businesses work, but I just feel like they've already made their profit on this game in a weird way. So you're not wrong though. I think that's definitely a feel bad moment. I just think they'll never have to lower the price because they've made their money and can invest it in new projects and reward their employees or whatever. Like, I don't there's this. Okay, hang on. They made 96 million on a Kickstarter from enthusiasm. How does let's say all that 96 million gets spent? What's the long-term plan for this company to make money? Because once this game launches, they've got to continue. Are they going to make new games? Are they just going to keep adding on forever to this game and keep a revenue stream? Like, I don't know if space games are like this. It feels like this is a nostalgia hit. This is not a flash in the pan, but there's a very specific audience willing to pay a lot of money for this experience. But it's not like on the level of, MOBAs or World of Warcraft or trading card games where people are willing to spend thousands of dollars for years and years and years and years in the same way these other genres do, like even Call of Duty games. That's the thing I feel weird about this, and it goes to your comment of like, I hope things don't get devalued, but like it would have to get devalued because they'd have to keep their revenue stream going. So there'd be better and better stuff, and that old stuff is just like collector shit.
Yeah, no, I agree with all that. I mean, it. I think that that game may release other campaigns. Their first one is Squadron something whatever, and I think they might just build it. In many ways, I think it'll follow kind of MMO type models. I'm not sure um, if they'll release giant expansions every so often, and I think they're not hurting for money. They'll find a way to make it work, so I'm not too worried. I am losing enthusiasm for it the more I hear about this stuff.
Yeah, same here. All right, next up, World of Warcraft no longer publishing subscriber numbers. This is kind of like, yes.
Death knell for World of Warcraft?
I think, okay, there's two things that, you could take away from this. One is that they're constantly going up and down, more often down than up, which makes sense because
they were so high.
They go up to like 9 or 10 million when there's an expansion release, which makes sense because there's something released, and the numbers dwindle down afterwards. And I think the conversation is exactly what you brought up, Crofton, is that like it's a death knell. But the numbers keep surging back up when new content keeps coming out. I think the issue people have with that game is that they need new content to have a reason to come back, and it doesn't come back. There's not enough new content fast enough. That being said, it's like a technological complexity. That thing's a beast of a program.
Yeah, and also, like, I think that you get people that come back, but I think that the people that come back are people whose accounts are inactive and they're playing other things, maybe even other Blizzard games or whatever.
Sure.
And they come back, oh, there's a new expansion. Boom. Oh, the numbers surge up. But that's because they have a high platform of older players who have played at one point or another. I think they had 14 million at one point or something crazy. And so all those people may at one point come back for an expansion, but they are not getting new people with these expansions. I'm pretty confident. Like, very few new people, or someone who's never played World of Warcraft. Oh, there's a new World of Warcraft expansion. If anything, as a guy who's never played it, whenever one comes out, I'm like, oh, I definitely can't play that game. It is way beyond me now. There's, I would want to play vanilla WoW, much less like 15 expansions worth. It's really to get lapsed players to return and play again is what it is. The expansions too. So I do think World of Warcraft, not as death knell is too big, but is on the decline, and they're just slowly, like, they were so high that they can be on the decline for a long time. It's sort of like the American Empire.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's true. But that being said, what about the next MMO coming out? Once it actually goes down so low, someone's got to take that spot. If not them, someone else is. Like, MMO gaming is still a genre. Someone's going to be occupying that spot, I think.
For sure.
All right.
So yeah. I see here that Super Star Wars is being re-released, which is funny to me because normally when you see these re-releases, they're, I guess, recent or somewhat recent, a console generation ago, but this is like a Super Nintendo re-release on PS4, PS Vita. It's got crossplay, the whole 9 yards. Um, it's funny because I'm also one of the reasons I assume that these old re-releases never happened is because of licensing issues, especially for games that old. Like maybe the developer doesn't exist anymore, or the person who owns their assets is not the company that has the rights to Star Wars. But serendipitously, everything aligned itself, and they're going to be releasing Super Star Wars, a Super Nintendo game with slight enhancements, including trophies and that sort of thing. And I think that's cool. Like I like seeing that stuff. It's weird it's not on a Nintendo console, but whatever. What do
Yeah,
you think?
it does seem strange that it's not on a Nintendo console, but Nintendo's so weird about things from what I hear, like with all the Let's Play stuff, that I'm happy for PlayStation owners that they get to play it there. Because it's called Super Star Wars. Like, that Super is a direct reference to Super Nintendo-dom, right?
Have you ever played Super Star
Oh
Wars?
yeah, it's great. I love the Star Wars Super series. We've talked about it on the show before. We did our Super Star Wars
Oh
special
yeah, I
back
played
before
it
we
on
even.
emulator. Like I didn't play it originally on Super Nintendo. I at one point I was playing emulated Super Nintendo games, of course, years ago around the Nintendo 64 era, I guess. And yeah, it was hard ass.
It was
Like
challenging, yeah. It was good though. If the controls felt really good, like the lightsaber play and the shooting, and it was a good platformer. There were some tough platforming challenges. I think this is a great idea. I think this will be the best Star Wars related video game material to be released. To be honest,
see. I think Star Wars, Super Star Wars, is like a neat idea in the sense that they took something, a property, a licensed property, and a game mechanic that was popular at the time, which is platforming, and they put them together really in a neat way. Like when you play that first level and you're in Tatooine with Luke, and you're doing all this crazy platforming over pits, and there's crazy shit going on that clearly never goes on in the movies. Like nobody's playing that and is like, this is so unrealistic. It's not like the movies at all. Right now, you have a lot of people playing Battlefront who are bitching about the heroes in them. Like, so you're on Hoth, and all of a sudden, Darth Vader's walking around, and people are like, "That's so unrealistic. Darth Vader was never walking around on Hoth during that battle." Um, I think people like that need to chill out and learn to have fun. And I think Super Star Wars is a perfect example of the mixing of those two, sort of the flavor of Star Wars with the fun of like a good
it's
challenging
it's
platform
it's
game.
video gamified. It's not meant to be an immersive experience of the movie. It's just meant to be a video game that lets you enjoy the flavors of movie.
Speaking of companies that are focused on fun, Nintendo, doing its series of Nintendo Direct, has revealed something that data miners had already kind of dug into
The data
earlier.
miners.
Yeah, they that Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, which was a launch title for the Wii,
Mm-hmm.
and possibly the last game released for the GameCube simultaneously, is being remade in HD, which will be the second game remade in Zelda game remade in HD for the Wii after the Wind Waker.
Hmm.
The difference being that this one is a polygonal game, and Wind Waker is too, but it's cell shaded, so the HDification makes it look super sweet. Where Twilight Princess was a good looking game for its time, but and will look better in HD, but will still look quite dated. Um, I'm not saying they shouldn't do it. It's just a little more surprising. I didn't think they were going to just keep doing this, like HDing up their games. But I guess the sales for Wind Waker must have been pretty good.
Yeah, I think that those mobile Zelda games are very popular.
What do you mean mobile?
Sorry, not mobile, portable console. This is a remake of a DS game, right?
No, no. This is like I just said, the GameCube and the Wii.
Oh,
It's a
really?
launch title for the Nintendo Wii.
Oh,
So it went the Zelda. So you had
See,
Zelda Wind Waker on GameCube, and then as the GameCube went out, they released Zelda Twilight Princess, and it went. It was the one that's the more mature look, like it's all kind of dark and dismal, and like anyway, people were clamoring for that after the cheerful Wind Waker, and be careful what you wish for. I like the art style of Wind Waker much better. But yeah, Twilight Princess ended up being sort of, it was one of these ones that divided the fan base, I guess you would say. I played the Wii version. I have the Wii version, which has motion controls, but not as good motion controls as Skyward Sword would have later on. So, yeah, I'm happy that the game is getting a second lease on life because I think Nintendo needs all the money it can get. But I would be, if I owned a Wii U, I would be less excited about this than I was about Wind Waker. Another,
so wait,
an,
just so I'm clear, are they redoing it in the nicer art style, or not the nicer, but the cuter art style?
no, they're
No,
just
they're
doing an
just.
HD. They're
Hmm.
making it HD.
Now this is good news for Zelda fans. I'm looking at screenshots right now. This is how out of touch I am with Zelda now, where I'm just like I don't even know what the games are anymore. I know that.
Twilight Princess received a lot of flack because it has an extremely, especially for Zelda, an extremely long startup time. Like before Link becomes kind of Link, like he's like some farmer in a village, and there's like he gains the ability to turn into a wolf, and there's all this before you're like in the tunic, going into dungeons and all that sort of stuff. There's a really long introductory sequence, and it lost a lot of people.
Hmm.
But I found the latter half of Twilight Princess in particular was pretty fun. I remember really liking that Zelda game, and I played a Zelda on the 3DS earlier this year, and it got me back into the wanting to play Zelda again. But it is, as you've mentioned before, hard to play one of these old like non HD games. We've had HD for so long now, so it is nice to see that they're providing this option. And in the end, if they keep doing this, and I'm assuming Skyward Sword is going to get an HD treatment as well, then you're going to have a shit ton of Zelda games in HD on the Wii U, which may help turn around their sales issues. The other Nintendo Direct announcement of note was that Cloud from Final Fantasy VII was being added to Smash Brothers as a downloadable character, which is funny because Final Fantasy VII has never come out on a Nintendo console. So, but I guess he's an iconic character, and people want to beat up
That
Mario with his Buster Sword.
that is strange, actually. When I really stopped to consider, when I stopped to consider what you just said about how like Final Fantasy has a history with Nintendo, but it's like Nintendo Final Fantasy 3 and 2 here and 1 here in the American versions of Final Fantasy. So is that a hint that we'll get the remake on some Nintendo platform in addition to the other ones? You think?
Oh, I doubt it. I think that like, if anything, it's Nintendo and Square Enix sometimes like to keep, like, they both have an interest in keeping their relationship going, but it's clear to me that Final Fantasy is a brand now most associated with the Sony platforms, and
Well, yeah.
my guess is that
Like 15 is going to be a Sony exclusive.
yeah, I would be very surprised to see Final Fantasy VII remake on anything other than PC and PlayStation. Those would be the
Hmm.
only ones. Oh, maybe Xbox, but definitely not Nintendo. It's just not going to happen. Unless, of course, the Nintendo NX, which is their next console and is going to be the first to the market of the new generation. Like, say it comes out in Christmas next year, which is possible. Um, that would be early, but it's possible. Well, then if they now have the most powerful console in the market, because they've sped ahead to the next generation, then maybe suddenly developers will start looking at them again, and maybe
That
so
seems
Square will.
crazy. It seems crazy to me that Nintendo would have the best console but it's entirely possible when you actually put it that way. And I think about it, like if if there is another Nintendo console, we've talked about that, right? Like there is one in development.
Yeah, the
Past,
NX. It's
yeah.
believed to be, and this is why I think that it won't be so powerful. It's believed to be one that mixes portability. Like it's something that you'll be able to detach and take away portably and then bring it back and then use it
Like to bring it to your
with your
buddy's house or
TV.
something.
So I think that that's going to limit
Hmm.
its power. Uh, Reggie Fils-Aimé or whatever admitted that that when they prototyped and developed the Wii U, which was based on a tablet model,
Yeah.
they had all these sort of ideas in their head, but by the time they got to store shelves, iPads existed, and they were in a situation where all their innovative ideas had pretty much been surpassed, which is unfortunate because Nintendo bets hard on some sort of innovative control mechanism, and sometimes it works really well, and sometimes, like in the case of the Wii U, they missed the boat a little bit. They were too late to market.
Oh well. Oh, I'd love to see the day where Nintendo's on top again. You know, because those are some fond memories we had in NES and Super NES, and I'd really like to feel that Nintendo feeling again. Because I was a diehard Nintendo fan for a very long time. You know, you remember the bazooka gun? I had the bazooka gun.
The Super Scope.
Yeah, Super Scope. That was pretty kick ass. Even though it made me really sore using that thing for more than like 30 minutes.
I have an inkling we'll talk more about this in a dialogue tree someday.
Okay, well,
Maybe even today.
maybe. All right, let's move on then. Games per minute.
You're always talking about making kids' minds like vegetables. Talk about them out in the street smoking pot.
This is Games Per Minute.
How do you feel about cutting his head off? One.
All right, this is Games Per Minute, where we're going to talk about what we've been playing the last week. I'm really not going to talk about what I've played because it's just been Heroes of the Storm with friends and Rank Ladder. That's, I play a lot of Heroes of the Storm. No
God
other
damn
games
it, Bo!
played
You
this
need
week.
to try something else. It's been a little too much Heroes. I know you got your own show, but come on.
Yeah, I'm closing in on the 3,000 game mark.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
So I completed The Witcher 3. Please play some sort of fanfare music.
Yeah. Hang on, give me a minute. I wish you would have warned me ahead of time. I could have had something queued up. Let's see.
I, Crofton Steers, completed The Witcher 3 fanfare music.
Oh, that's not it. Wait.
No,
I
that
got
was
it.
a
I got
cow.
it. Wait a second.
Look at this mess.
No, hang on. Here, wait, I got something for you. No, that's not it either.
I'm curious.
No.
What is the etymology of that idiom?
Okay,
Oh,
hang on.
God.
Wait,
How about
wait.
I'm always jittery. It's my personality to
Okay.
be jittery. It's part
That's
of
not
my
it.
charm.
Stop it, Macho. No, that's not it. Oh,
That'll do, Macho. That'll do. Okay, so
is just gonna
all right, wait, I found it.
oh.
You finished
So yes,
it.
I finished The Witcher 3. And when I say I finished it, I finished the shit out of it. So
Okay.
I finished like every secondary mission. I
Yeah.
got like two full sets of armor, like of the top Witcher armor chains. Like these are sub quests. I did every Witcher contract in the game. I did everything and then like completed the game. I was curious what was going to happen. There are multiple endings and such, but when it ends, you're sort of brought back into the game world, and it says, before the epilogue, and they say if you want to keep exploring, you can or whatever. Which is good because I bought the expansion pack, Hearts of Stone, and I'm looking forward to getting into it. I just started it, and it feels kind of neat already because it feels like really a solo adventure of The Witcher outside of the trappings of the big lore trappings of the story. So anyway, I'm stoked, and the fact that I am still interested in The Witcher 3 after all of this is a testament to its quality. And as I mentioned off the top,
aren't you
I got
so
a new...
leveled up now that you're OP? Like, don't you just sneeze on everything and then you sneeze a fire and then everything dies? And
I'm not sure how the game balance is done because they say which quests, which level you should be, but generally it keeps it so that you are pretty much close to the level needed for the main story quest. Yeah, the end boss was a bit easy because my guy was pretty pumped, but the Hearts of Stone stuff I've started playing is really difficult. Like it's they say that I should be the exact level that I am to do it. So I think it's level 34 requirement. My character is level 34, but like guys that used to be like I could blow over with a sneeze are suddenly super tough. What's fun is the actual combat. I like a lot in The Witcher, so it's actually fun having that threat of defeat. You have to use all the tools of the trade to win. So I am enjoying it, but I haven't played much of Hearts of Stone. I know I'm going to talk about it again, so I don't want to talk too much about it.
All right.
The other thing is I'm back on Rocket League. I got my new PC. The first thing I installed after Google Chrome was Rocket League.
Nice.
I
You should have told me. We need to get some games in together, man.
Turns out I'm actually super good at it still, which was something that I was concerned that I was going to lose.
League?
Huh?
What are you, Bronze League?
I don't know. I just am really good.
Okay.
And so of the 5 games I played last night, I was MVP in 3 games.
Nice.
I'm not bragging because I suck at most games, but it just turns out I'm good at Rocket League. So yeah, I'm hoping to have a bunch of new gaming news because now I have this new PC. I've installed sort of Shadows of Mordor on it. I want to do some benchmarking, see how pumped I can make the graphics. Maybe I'll even be able to play something in 4K. But I'm pretty excited. I'm pretty excited to. What's funny though is I'll probably keep playing The Witcher, the game that would be the best suited to test in sweet, sexy graphics. I'll keep playing that on PS4 because that's where my character is. I really wish I could import that save, but I guess I can't.
So last time I talked to you, which I believe was Saturday, so 2 days ago, it was looking like you weren't going to get your PC for a while. So what happened? The computer store called you up and said everything was okay?
Yeah, they did. There's been a couple of issues. I don't want to go into it. They're not totally resolved, and I totally will talk to you about them. But I did get it Sunday midday, and I was able to use it in the evening after I set some stuff up. So I'm happy about that. But there are some issues.
You're running Windows 10?
Yes, sir.
Sweet. Oh, you got a new computer. Congratulations. That's amazing.
Yay, achievement unlocked.
Yeah, with a pink chassis, right? You had a pink chassis?
No, I got a blue chassis.
Okay.
It's awesome.
Yeah, Crofton, there was pain getting this computer, and he detailed them to me. And I suppose we could talk about it on the show instead of telling you what the conversation was and then not sharing it with you. But we're not going to share it with you.
Trust me, you will not.
We're going to start a separate podcast called Crofton's Computer Chronicles or Triple C, CCC.
It should be Crofton's purchasing woes, because whenever I buy something over a certain price point, I have problems with it. I told Jessie that I'm no longer allowed to buy anything. If we need something over a certain price point, she has to buy it. Because if I buy it, there's going to be problems.
It sounds like an 80 Movies tagline. When Crofton buys it, there's problems.
I'm superstitious. I didn't think I would be, but I am.
All right. Well, we talked about games. Let's move on to the dialogue tree. How about we do some dialogue tree?
Let's do some dialoguing.
But I can't find the tree. The tree went missing on me.
Are you going to play Macho Man again?
Now there's one fine dialogue tree. All right, welcome to the dialogue tree, where we have a conversation about a topic that we sort of pre-select, and that's something that we feel like discussing. And actually, something that came up was on Core, we had a caller call in about the new hero Cho'Gall. It's 2 players, and he said, my wife is really terrible at Heroes of the Storm, and it's frustrating for her. So finally, we have a hero we can play together, and hopefully she'll be more into it. To which I said, well, if she's not really into Heroes of the Storm to begin with, this thing isn't going to do anything for her, and for you, and for your relationship, might make it worse. But a father and son could play Cho'Gall together as a co-op thing. And it got me to thinking, wow, I'm at actually the age where, I don't have a child now, but I know plenty of people that do, including you, Crofton, that, it's not just about thinking what games mean to me, but what are games going to mean to the children that I raise. And it's really weird, because I started thinking about what games were to me, and they were often forbidden fruit. In terms of, the games I most wanted to play were like Wing Commander, and I wanted to shoot Hitler in Wolfenstein, and I wanted, to see all the gross stuff in Doom, and a lot of this stuff, it felt like it was difficult to access, or I wasn't able to. But now when I hear about kids, they have games at their disposal. So first of all, they're taking for granted the fact that they have all these games because they were you had to hear about them from your uncle and get shareware discs and to install Space Quest and stuff. Now they're everywhere. They're free to play on phones. Kids have phones. The consoles, adult gamers have consoles, so naturally kids are just playing games. But what do you think really drives interest for children, in a world where games are just everywhere? Like, what's exciting for them? And also, how do we approach it as parents in terms of like, and this is what I wanted to ask you, Crofton, is like, Gwen, and maybe if you have other children, like, how is it that you're going to treat games with them? And, what does that mean to you as someone who is a gamer, as opposed to having parents who didn't understand it that much?
It's interesting because, like, in many ways, and this is a good question, in many ways it makes you want to be not more protective, but sort of some of what's out there. And when you know what's out there, it becomes you become protective in a different way. I think where it gets tricky is when I was a kid, my dad always wanted to share experiences from his childhood with me, and he would say like, "Oh, let's go do this, or let's go visit this thing, or whatever." And in many cases, I didn't find the things that he wanted to show me that interesting because I was into the new hotness, many of which were video games. And we now have, our generation, the first gaming generation, has sort of a collective memory of that time. We all know the Contra Code. We all know how Super Mario Brothers 3 opens when the curtains part, and how to get the warp whistle. And we all know those of us in the PC realm, we all know about the Space Quest, or the Monkey Islands and that sort of thing. So there was this communal experience that is sort of lost with the choice that you mentioned. So it's hard really to know how we'll ever get that back. And I think there's games that transcend that, like Minecraft, that have become sensations in their own right, that our kids will look back and they will remember Minecraft as an element of their youth. But I don't know. Part of me as an adult gamer wants to take my kid when she's old enough and be like, "Oh, you need to play Mario Brothers 3, or you need to play like this game that I played when I was a kid. Oh, it's so awesome. Oh, it's whatever." Not being aware that maybe that experience is no longer, like, maybe it's because of me experiencing it in my formative years that makes it so appealing. And so I think in a way it's hard to force anything on your kid. And so I'm going to try to be in tune with what is hot now, and ensure that she is able to experience that. So like right now they have all those toy things like Skylanders and Disney Infinity and all that
Like
sort of stuff.
Amiibos and things like that too.
Pardon?
Amiibos, is that a game?
Yeah, that's Nintendo's version of that.
Okay.
And Nintendo, that's one of the reasons Nintendo continues to be popular. Because you know what? Maybe I can't make her play Mario 3, but I can make her, like, she may want to play Super Mario Land, or sorry, Super Mario 3D World, or whatever the latest one is on the Wii with the HD graphics and all this, that captures the spirit of the old Mario games just with newer graphics. And I think that there will be a lot of that. I, for sure, will be, just as she will be experiencing Disney because I like Disney. She will be experiencing Nintendo because I feel that they cater well to children and they provide a good sense of adventure. Like, there's a purity to the adventure found in stuff like Zelda.
Sure, yeah.
So that's not in some of the grimmer adult stuff. Where I love The Witcher. But I would not have any. If I had a little boy or a little girl, little girl, I would be steering them away from The Witcher for as long as possible. It's a game made for adults, and now we're at the point where we need to determine which ones are.
And it might not even, hold their interest, actually. Like, you assume because it has adult content in it that it would hold their interest. Now, like, a young boy might want to see blood and gore, but they don't necessarily want, intellectual depth from their gaming experiences at that age necessarily, right?
And that's a good point, Bo, because you were attracted by like Doom and Mortal Kombat was a big one. They had mature content without being mature games, and now there are games that have mature content, but there are mature games. Like I think of The Last of Us, and the thing about The Last of Us that's tough in a way is that it still controls relatively intuitively that I could see an 11-year-old or a 12-year-old playing The Last of Us, but they really should not. And it's up to parents to police to a certain extent, and I recognize that. I recognize that now, but like with the fidelity of graphics that are just going to increase, it's going to become very difficult to keep for kids not to be traumatized. Like I saw when I was a kid, did you ever see those Child's Play movies?
Yeah, for sure.
I saw one when I was really way too young to see that movie, like 7 or 8 or something.
Yeah.
Like it was ridiculous. I saw like the first Chucky movie. It traumatized me. Like I wouldn't when the second one came out and there was a poster in the video store, I wouldn't even go into the store because I knew the poster was in there. It was like a Jack in the Box with this clown head popping out and Chucky's about to cut it off. It scarred me so much.
I had a similar experience with James Cameron's Aliens, which is probably not as bad as Child's Play, but still has its chest-bursting moments.
No, I would say it's in the way that it's a better film. It's almost scarier, but I know exactly what you mean. And the thing is, now video games can deliver those horrific experiences. Like I imagine somebody playing the opening of The Last of Us now, or stuff with the clickers and all this. It would be absolutely traumatizing. Where when the ESDP or the rating convention came about,
ESRB.
ESRB,
Sure, ESDP. I mean, PRTF.
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
But like when I remember it was like Grand Theft Auto 3, he had games like Grand Theft Auto 3 and Manhunt and all these games on PS2 era that like they had mature content, but man, the graphics were so clunky and shitty that it's very easy for a kid to detach themselves from the scary things that they see in that. But when you see a game like The Last of Us in HD and all this, and the traumatic things that you see in that, I would want to keep my kid as far as possible away from that. And so I think it'll be about enabling the right types of games, but I think it'll be less about communal experiences like we had as kids, where we grew up now, and you meet somebody our age and that they more than likely have a communal memory, a collective memory about some stuff that kids of this generation won't have because they have more choice, they have more things, they'll each have their own individual video game experience.
It also just seems like it's there, like it's just, there wasn't a sense of like finding out about Wolfenstein wasn't like I could open up the internet and go to the gaming Twitter and find out about it or whatever. It was like somebody had to tell me, hey, do you know that there's this game that's actually first person? You want to come over to my house and see it? Like there was a sense of, you have to, like a club mentality. And I think when it's everywhere, it just feels like it's just there. Like it's just part of the world. It's not something that people are working on that's difficult to obtain, and not everyone gets it. A lot of people get gaming. There's a lot of gaming sites. The news is about it's everywhere. Gaming options are right there on your phone, 1 billion of them. So my sense is like it's almost like it's not special for the next generation in a weird way. So,
and you're right, because it is everywhere. And so for me, it'll be about the creation of those special moments. Because I tell you, one of the first things, this is how much of a nerd I am. When I knew I was having a kid, one of the first things I thought about, you think about some things you're going to do with your kid, you jump ahead years and years or whatever. But I thought about like, with my 6-year-old or 7-year-old sitting on the couch playing like some sort of co-op Nintendo game or whatever, and being like, oh man, this is sweet. Or like having her solve some sort of puzzle while I watch her little brain work and all this, even though I kind of know the answer of the puzzle. and that excites me to no end. I'm gonna have so much fun doing that, and so it's funny because I'm so literate in the video game world. I will be both an enabler but also a blocker, like depending on. And I have a little girl, and so far games have been heavily tailored for men, and it'll be interesting. We're starting to see this shift, but I'm curious when by the time 4 or 5 years from now, when she's starting to get really interested in sitting down and playing like a big game, if there will be something that has a strong a female character in the kid space, because there isn't much. So
I'd be interested to see what she gravitates to in any case, you know, because at the same time you're gonna have your gaming tastes. If she's a gamer, she'll have her own tastes, and you want them to be. They won't necessarily be yours, you know. Like she might be really into Minecraft, and I mean that just seems like an odds-on possibility. But she might be really into, I don't know, like something that you're not. You know how like we have very different gaming tastes. We both love video games, but we
yeah,
spend our time very differently. She
she
may
might
have
be
her
into
own.
Civilization. Oh God.
Like it won't
Yeah.
be the traditional girly stuff, because I think actual girl gamers are, if they are true gamers, they're not into like the Kim Kardashian gaming. You know, they like Dead Space or something. Like there'll be a thing in there that is different, but you'll still be united by games. That's interesting. I often wonder what I would do. Like I'm definitely going to be an enabler, because I just spend a lot of time playing game. Like even if you know, I will be inviting them to play games with me. I just don't know, because you know me pretty well, Crofton, and if our listeners have been with us on the journey through good, bad, or bullshit, you kind of know I have a lot of moral ambiguity with a lot of things. So I'd be like, "Here, 3-year-old, this is Doom 4. Come play with Daddy." You know, and like, and I'm wondering. It's one thing to be me now before the kid, and I think you do change a little bit once you have the kid, and I wonder what that's gonna look like for me. Where I'm like, you know, I said this when I didn't have a kid, but now I'm like, maybe the Doom stuff is not for you yet, but I'll be there to explain it to you when you accidentally play the game while I'm not paying attention or something, you know?
And there are a lot of parental controls, but now on consoles as well. Like there's all sorts of stuff you can set it up so you know you power it on. You
Sure.
choose. There's multiple profiles. The first thing I do on PS4 when I log on is I have to choose my profile. So you know you can make it so one profile is password protected, the others are, you know, say I make Gwen has a profile. She clicks on it, and it goes in, and then it immediately filters out any content that's like over a certain age bracket or whatever. That you can do that. You can scrub stuff like that now, and it's becoming easier for parents who have some savvy in the matter, like I do, to be able to do that. So that's going to be a challenge for me. But I agree with you. And one thing that we won't know until it happens is what our kids will gravitate towards in terms of games, if they choose gaming at all. Because you know, while you might copy your parents, sometimes you just like to do the opposite of what they
Oh,
do,
yeah,
right? So
especially if you're a Schwartz. Our genes are we reject whatever the status quo is, even if it doesn't make sense. So I could totally see our children being like, gaming's for losers. My dad's a loser. He plays video games. I'm into plastic surgery, you know, or whatever.
oh, well, at least they'll make a lot of money.
Yeah, but cool.
They can enlarge my penis.
I wouldn't force them. You know, I think it's a case of forcing it down somebody, and I think I'd like to just let them come to it if they're interested in it. So, all right, well, that's interesting. I'm glad we had this talk, because we often are selfishly talking about us, and I like the idea, you know, especially at our age, to think about, you know, other generations and that family experience of video games. Okay, so we're, you know, on our way out, but, you know, we got a few more things that we'd like to do before we close out the show. Crofton, can you tee this one up?
Sure, we're gonna get to the point of the show where we recommend or don't recommend something to you. Ooh, tantalizing! In a segment we call inventory management.
Inventory management is a challenging and inexact science.
All right, this is where we answer the question: spend your cash or vendor tray. Crofton,
You go first, Bo, but before you do, I want to say, like, we have sort of a chart here about the show. I get to see what Bo's pick is before he makes it. And I got to say, your picks lately have all been extremely good. Like, whenever I see them, I'm like, oh, shit, I wish I'd thought of that pick. But anyway,
Yeah,
without further ado, go ahead.
So part of the deal is I haven't been playing new games that much, with the exception of Darkest Dungeon. So I don't have like games that I can recommend. Like, at least you have The Witcher, which you got to use once, I think, at some point. So I've been rating my Steam library for all my favorite games. At some point, this list is gonna run out. I'm worried, but thank you for the compliment. My recommendation is Dead Space. I really had to think about which Dead Space to recommend. I think maybe 2 is the best one. There's a 1 and a 2 and a 3, but I really recommend the first one because it's a good entry point to the franchise. It's the most isolationist out of all of them, which this is a horror game, so I think it does the best job of making you feel that sort of that isolated sense. And if anything, narratively, I feel like 2 and 3 are like trying to reach to higher grandeur of narrative, where like if you like isolationist movies, it's like the greater world's implied but never shown. And so the Dead Space one takes place entirely on a derelict ship, and the bigger world, the universe, is hinted at but never shown, which like lends a lot of weight to it narratively, which I really like. So Dead Space 1 is what I'm going to recommend. You play an engineer who's going just to scrap a derelict ship to find out, what happened to some other people that were sent ahead of it, only to find out there's some alien shit going on, and some weird religious aspects to the undead in space in an isolated place. It is a gorgeous game. It's got, while it's not on the level of like Last of Us or Uncharted or even Tomb Raider, it does have those action set pieces, more so in 2 and 3, but there's definitely some in 1, in those sort of big boss fights. So it's a great mix of horror / adventure game. One of the scariest parts of the game is that there's this random bathroom that nothing bad happens in it, but when you go in the stalls, there's just like this screaming, like it's this weird screaming sound. It's that atmosphere scary shit in this game. As well as the shooting mechanics are great. It's a feel-good game that way too. It's definitely fun to use the line gun and rotate which way. One of the key mechanics to dismembering the opponents is to actually cut off their limbs, and so you can do surgical strikes with the handgun of the game to cut off limbs. That's unique to that game. It's not really in any other game. So Dead Space, go watch a trailer for it, get it on sale, or even pay full price for it. Run, don't walk. Play this game if you haven't yet.
Origin often has it, like, I think it even gives it away, the first one, sometimes as their free game, but like you can get it, the first one, for pretty cheap. And honestly, I agree with your assessment. It's probably the best one, and you made compelling points as to why. One thing I thought about the whole Dead Space too was that and you mentioned the line gun and the dismemberment, but it does a lot that other games had not done. For instance, like the HUD, there's no HUD to speak of. Like, everything is integrated in the game. So when your guy is holding his gun, you see the ammo that you have left on the gun. On a little screen that projects. Your health is displayed on your armor in the back in sort of like a way that both adds mood and like gives you an indication of if you're almost dead, which a good health bar needs to. The map projects 3D around your character. There, like all the little touches in it are so ahead of their time, and like to me, it's the game that they took. When Resident Evil 4 came out, everybody was like, oh shit, this is amazing. What's next? Dead Space to me is like Resident Evil 4 2. It's what's next. Everything that was weak about Resident Evil 4, Dead Space fixes, and in many ways is a better game. So yeah, I think that's a sweet
I actually think I might, I say that about a lot of games, but I kind of want to play it a bit. We've been talking about it now, so that's my recommendation. Go play it, Crofton.
Well, I haven't played Dead Space 1 for a real long time. Actually, I only played it the one time. I owned it on PC because I got it as part of a Dead Space pack, but I played it on Xbox 360, And yeah, it's totally, it's like one of those good Halloween November-y games to play as well. Um, my game is, and it's funny because I've been also sort of scratching the bottom of the barrel. Part of me wants to share sort of really memorable gaming experiences I've had, even if they don't necessarily hold up. I mentioned Star Control 2 recently, which I still think is a good game, but it is an old game. This is another old game, probably doesn't hold up that well, but Star Wars is coming out this week. The Battlefront. This is Star Wars Jedi Knight 2: A Jedi Outcast. Um, and I'll be honest, I never finished, I think, the single player campaign in this game, which people say is really awesome, and I very much enjoyed it. But I think there are very few games in my life that I've put more multiplayer time into the Star Wars Jedi Knight 2. At one point, I was the best I've ever been at an online game. Like, you know how I was saying I was super awesome at Rocket League, and I am super awesome at Rocket League,
Yes.
but
Yes.
I am extra awesome at Star
Extra
Wars
awesome.
Jedi Knight 2. That was
Okay.
like I was on top of the world at that point. And it's partly because there was little tricks that you could learn in the game. Like it wasn't particularly super polished or whatever. But yeah, I just remember having a really good time. And I know it's still out there. I have it on Steam and that other people can buy it. I would totally recommend the multiplayer and just the lightsaber combat. The fact that you could choose different stances. So there's like a light and a medium and a heavy stance, and it affects your strikes and all that. Oh man, I just thought it was so cool. And the differentiation between the light and dark side, force powers, and the way that you would fight, how force pushes and pulls, like the duels that you could have with other players were pretty compelling. They're not the same as the movies because of graphics and because of whatever, but they are fun in their own right and totally worth playing. So yeah, that's my
This
rec.
is
So,
this is also the multiplayer where you had your misadventures. If I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly, you'd log into servers with special rules and promise to obey those special rules, and then completely break them and pwn the whole server, basically.
I don't want to say that I'm a troll because I try not to in most games, but there was something about Star Wars Jedi Knight. Everybody, it's like one of those multiplayer games where everybody plays the same level, even though there's a level selection. Mostly there was one level, it was Cloud City that came up, and there was this platform where ships landed, and everybody would line up to do one-on-one duels, even though the mechanics of the server we were on was that it was a death match and everybody could kill everybody. But people would line up, and then one player would go and duel with another player, which now that I think about it is kind of quaint and kind of neat.
It's kind of awesome, and everyone else watches, right? Like
Yeah,
a
they're all
dojo,
watching.
like a dojo
They're
or something.
Yeah, exactly. They're all in line watching, and one would go up to the other, and they would crouch as a bow because there's no bowing mechanic, and then the other one would bow, and then they would turn on their lightsabers, and then they would have a duel. And excuse me, it was pretty cool, but I would go up to the line and just kill everybody in line. And then the two guys, the way the force pull and push mechanic works is that if you're facing the guy and you force push him, you can absorb it.
Yeah.
But if you push him from the side or the back or something, he'll go flying, especially if he's in the air. And so these two guys would be engaged in their battle. I just killed the line, and I would run in and then force push them both off the side, and they would fall to their doom. And then the entire server would come and try and kill me because I had violated the sacred code of Jedidom. And I am not very good at many video games. It makes me sound, just because I'm amazing at Rocket League and really good at this, it makes me sound like I'm full of myself. But really, this was one game that I was top drawer at, and sometimes there'd be like 14 guys against me, and I'd be killing them all. The trick was to use the cheapest methods possible. That's how that's how you could survive, because there was like a force drain power it's the dark side. You could drain people's force, and then they couldn't use the force against you, but you had unlimited power.
Ah, nice.
So anyway, it was. I'm getting giddy just thinking about it, but I don't know how well it holds up, and maybe there's people that have been playing it for years that would, pwn
Well,
noobs
I had
or
my
whatever.
and we're gonna move on and end the show in just a second. But I had my annual nostalgia pangs for PlanetSide 1, so I installed the game the other day.
Really?
I haven't run it yet. Yeah, but I installed it, and I'm kind of like, I want to log in just to you know, just to bathe in the water for a bit and be like, oh, this is why am I not playing this game again? And go, oh yeah, this is why. It's, you know, so its heyday is done. But I gotta say, PlanetSide 1 sits fondly in my memory. I'm sure as it does yours. So it's
Well, it does. For sure, it does. Jedi Knight 2 is in that same sort of way, and I feel like in this recommendation segment, you want to recommend sometimes the best experience you've had, even though they may, you know, I can't speak to how well it holds up now. I just know I had a really good time at the time I played it. The time I played it was 2004, 2005, so that's starting to be, well, it's 10 years ago. So.
well, there you go. There's our gaming recommendations. All right, so let's give them the doobly-doo.
All right. Well, if they want to listen to more EXM episodes, and honestly, who wouldn't really? You want to listen to more. There are more, 26 more, and they're on exmpodcast.com. You can also subscribe to our show on iTunes or on Stitcher. Give us some great reviews. We would love them. You can follow us on Twitter at EXM Podcast. You'll find out when we go live here on Twitch, which is Monday evenings around 8:30ish. And you'll also find out, of course, when a new episode drops through our Twitter feed. Facebook.com/EXM Podcast. Same deal. You get to see the snazzy artwork Bo selects for each episode. Always fun to see. So like us on Facebook, please. exmpodcast@gmail.com. That's where you can send us all your questions, queries, topics. We would love to read your mail on air about any game that's tickling your fancy, be it of the jour or of the past. Our Twitch channel is twitch.tv/EXM podcast. And we have a sister show. It's called Good, Bad, or Bullshit. You can also, that one is, I think, Bo, do we do that one on YouTube live stream?
Yeah, we live stream that one on YouTube. And
So,
you can catch the VODs on YouTube.
If you, goodbadbull.com is all the episodes, and you can find out all the good info there about where to find our live streams and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You can follow us you can follow that one at goodbadbull on Twitter as well. So, Bo, we are individuals of an individual nature. And if people wanted to follow your individual nature, how would they do that?
You can find out more about what I'm up to. A hint, it's Heroes of the Storm most of the time. I'll tweet videos of my sweet kills on there at Bo Schwartz.
He's a bit of a Heroes of the Storm celebrity. And you can find me on Twitter, tweeting whatever goes through my head. Generally, stuff about how good I am at games.
You're gonna say
at
your
Crofton
Twitter brain.
Steers.
It's at Crofton Steers. I interrupted that part. It's at Crofton Steers.
Yeah, it's our names, but good luck on figuring out how to spell them.
It's true. If you don't know how to spell them, you're fucked.
So I totally attribute my lack of Twitter followers to the fact that they're like, Crofton Steers? How do I spell that? Shit, I don't know.
Well, and then their Apple phones autocorrected to Crouton Steers, and
goddamn
hijinks ensue. All right.
You know where hijinks ensue, Bo? They ensue generally in the closing segment of our show, Master Game Theater.
Oh, well done, sir.
It's now time for Master Game Theater.
There you go. It's now time for Master Game Theater. This is where we take something performed in gaming history and do an interpretation of it to close out the show. Today we have something short, but very, very, I don't want to say impactful, but very, very indicative of an era of gaming, notably the Super Nintendo age. And when you hear this performance, if you've played this game, it's a little game we call Killer Instinct. It's going to bring back memories of those good times. I don't know which of us, we haven't decided who's going to perform this. Should we do it together in unison?
Sure. You know what? It's so short that we can do it. I think you're a dominant on this, and I will sort of be like your background echo.
Okay. All right. I'm going to do a bit of lead up to it, too. Combo breaker.
Combo breaker.
Combo breaker.
Combo breaker.
Yeah. I'm sure I didn't get the right. It's something lame because it's not like combo breaker. It's like combo breaker, combo breaker. Like it's something weird, you know. But
how long was that ep?
a minute and 20. We took
An hour
40
and 20?
minutes on the news. Yeah,
An hour 20?
hour 20.
Shite.
It's fine.
Okay.
Our episode of Core this week was an hour and 55 minutes.
Sweet.
So whatever. All right.
No really good comment on the feed except for one guy here, the gamer boy, the underscore gamer boy. One word was commenting that the intro of Twilight Princess also disinterested him.
If you're watching and you're thinking about posting something stupid in chat, I have a new policy. It's called Schwartz Block. I'm totally copying Dan Harmon. As soon as someone says something remotely negative, he hashtag Harmon blocks them and blocks them. So we're doing the same. You got some smart ass thing like LOL 0 viewers, just give up, which is something I think someone wrote today. You're fucking banned. You never come back. We don't want you as a customer. Go burn and die in hell. Yep. As Crofton astutely pointed out during our board games on Saturday, that I take things way too personally and start feuds over them. I'm just gonna own the space that I live in and stop pretending I'm something else. So I'm just like, if you want to poke fun at what we do, well, fuck you. Make your own show and leave us the hell alone. This won't go into the final cut of the show, so I'm gonna drop like f-bombs like fucking crazy over this shit. But like, I'm just banning you. I'm not wasting time thinking about you, getting distracted from the conversation. You're just banned. And let me tell you what, I get a little stiff when I ban people, so it makes me feel good. It makes me feel good to ban you. You are helping me. You are helping me immensely. So if that's something you want to do, then go ahead.
Are you done?
Yeah, I'm done embarrassing myself.
Embarrassing both of us. The underscore gamer boy said, I have to admit the intro did disinterest me. He was talking about the intro to Twilight Princess, the most unfortunate named of the Zeldas. So,
is it unfortunately named Twilight Princess?
Well, as soon as I said it, you started giggling like a 12-year-old schoolgirl.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's because
it's kind of lame. There's nothing epic about Twilight Princess. Not because there's a princess involved, just Twilight Princess.
Let's face it, it's very rare that you can make something sound epic with the word princess in it.
Yeah, I suppose. Or prince, for that matter. Like, Prince of Persia doesn't sound epic.
I guess.
It was a good game, though. You know what? A rose by any other name would smell as sweet, to be honest.
That's
if that
true.
was the best gameplay, hands down, Twilight, I mean, Half-Life is a stupid name, but it's a great game, so everyone loves it, you know? Anyways.
Are we cutting the feed
Let's
here?
cut the feed. Thanks if anyone tuned in. If you're watching the VOD, thank you for watching the VOD. Really appreciate it. Subscribe to the show. Keep hanging out with us. We love that you do. And, yeah, thanks. And hit us up at that email address. Let us know you're out there. If you're someone who listens, we have a very small community of listeners, so it's nice to know if people are out there listening. We love to read your feedback on the air. It's all cool in the gang. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next week on the Exclamation Mark Podcast.